Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday night. And our phone number, 833-482-5337, 8334-VALDEZ. The government will not be shut down. That's the news of the day. We have some audio from the vote as it went down. Listen to this.
The yeas are 54, the nays are 46. The bill is passed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table.
Now, that's the latest and greatest with what's going on with the spending bill. The continuing resolution is good. Schumer has capitulated to the Republicans. And let me tell you, the Democrats are mad at him. Now, the other big story is this epic speech that Donald Trump gave at the Department of Justice today. And I got to make sure I leave enough time to get into all of this. But I also want to follow up on the Democrats being very upset with Chuck Schumer. And mainly Ayanna Pressley, AOC, the squad. You know, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, all out crazy herself. And maybe I'll get into that in a little bit after bottom of the hour. But right now, I want to pivot to the Trump speech because I think the Trump speech was good, and I got a couple of clips, and I want you to hear him. He does a lot better telling you what he said than I will do telling you what he said. This is President Trump saying that the days of injustice are over at the Department of Justice today. Check this out.
Our predecessors turned this Department of Justice into the Department of Injustice. But I stand before you today to declare that those days are over, and they are never going to come back. They're never coming back. So now, as the chief law enforcement officer in our country, I will insist upon and demand full and complete accountability for the wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people have given us a mandate like few people thought possible.
So, President Trump, again, the days of injustice are over. Now, he talked about a lot of things. He talked about the media. He talked about how much of an honor it was to fire James Comey, how sad it was to see what happened during the Biden days. And he also talked about, just there's many topics in this speech. But the media has taken this and turned it into he's going after his enemies. And this is something that I think is not accurate. I think what he's doing is pointing out how he was persecuted. So I want you to hear how he describes how the radicals in government obliterated trust in recent years. Listen to this.
But first, we must be honest about the lies and abuses that have occurred within these walls. Unfortunately, in recent years, a corrupt group of hacks and radicals within the ranks of the American government obliterated the trust and goodwill built up over generations. They weaponized the vast powers of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies to try and thwart the will of the American people. You remember the 51 intelligence agents that said, as an example, that Hunter Biden's laptop from hell came from Russia, when they knew it came right from his bedroom. They knew that. It was a big lie, and they knew it so well. They spied on my campaign, launched one hoax and disinformation operation after another, broke the law on a colossal scale, persecuted my family, staff, and supporters, raided my home, Mar-a-Lago, and did everything within their power to prevent me from becoming the President of the United States. With the help of radicals like Mark Elias, Mark Pomerantz, And these are people that nobody's ever seen anything like it. So many others, but these are people that are bad people, really bad people. They tried to turn America into a corrupt, communist, and third world country. But in the end, the thugs failed and the truth won. Freedom won, justice won, democracy won, and above all, the American people won.
The American people won, and I agree with that. And, you know, it's funny, the media is calling out Trump on this. They're saying that this was a bellicose speech, that he seemed aggressive, eager to fight. I don't think that was the case at all. The tone here was, we've corrected the problem. Now, yeah, he took a couple of swipes at people saying that, the judges were corrupt, that Jack Smith was deranged, people that did bad things to him were scum. But I wouldn't say that he was aggressive toward them. I think he was just being honest and making an observation. Didn't seem like he wanted to fight or looking to retaliate in any way. He was stating the facts. They spied on my campaign. They went after my family, my supporters, and my staff. That's true. He's sitting in the White House, right? I don't see a need for revenge. He won. He won big time. No need to do the aggression, right? In my opinion. But I gave you the audio. You could figure out for yourself what he meant by all that stuff. But in my opinion, not at all. I think it was just very matter of fact. And what made it epic was that he called out all of these wrongs and that he made it very clear that the country isn't going to stand for this anymore. Not because it happened to him per se, but because it happened in general. And so when he says, at least it's my understanding, when he says things like this should have never have happened, he's not saying this should have never happened to me. He's saying this should have never have happened, period. And I think that's appropriate. I think it's accurate that it should never happen. I don't want it to happen to me. Thank God it happened to him and not me, right? And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in a practical sense. How would I have been able to defend myself? I could fight as much as I want. I don't have 30 or 40 years of media experience like Donald Trump does and knowing how to navigate the media and being a media mogul, a rock star, right? He knows how to do that. He knows how to get the cameras in front of him. He knows how to create sound bites. This is what he's done forever and a day. Not to mention he's great at building buildings and developing properties, so he's made billions of dollars. Super. But for all his knowledge and know-how of how these things work, that's the only way he was able to survive. He had some money. He was able to fight these fights, and he was able to get people on board. But should something like that happen to the little guy, which I'm sure it's happened to the little guy a million times, what they do is they chew you up, and then they spit you out. So kudos to El Trompito, in my opinion, for speaking truth to power and winning and making it clear. And being able to step up and correct so many wrongs and establish new norms, right? Last Friday was the first crypto conference ever, first crypto summit in the White House. We're seeing lots of things. This Monday, we're expected to hear about legislation coming out of Congress to codify Trump's executive order on crypto and other things. Moving, in my opinion, at the speed of light over here. So I want to talk about the economy. I want to talk about what's going on with David Sachs, the White House crypto czar, and everything else that's happening in the economy, the markets. All right, there's a lot of talk about that. Things are really bad. Gold hit $3,000 for the first time ever today. Now, some say, well, that's because everything's so bad. People are hedging against. You could say that, but you know what? I happen to be in the jewelry business, and I can tell you that I was talking to my jewelry partners not too long ago around Christmas time when gold hit, I think, 2,400, which is the highest it had ever hit at the time. And I was like, looks like we're on our way to 3,000. How long do you think till we get to 3,000? And as we're sitting there having this conversation, the answer was probably around March. Well, here we are, March 14th or March 12th, whatever the date was, and voila. $3,000 an ounce. So it seems to me like we're on track. The rest of that conversation, by the way, for those who want to invest in precious metals, was the date of Christmas for us getting very close to $4,000 an ounce. So again, that's not inside info or anything like that. That's just pure speculation based on nothing but how gold is selling. Point is, people who have invested in gold are making money. People who have invested in certain types of crypto are making money. It looks like America's making a comeback. They tried to put a tariff on us from France from France and on Jack Daniels, I think it was, on American whiskey. Trump turned around and said, you know what? We're going to put a tariff on you, 200%. Go buy American wine. I happen to be a fan of wine that comes from Argentina, a big fan. And I've tried some of the American Malbecs, and I'm not particularly thrilled. But you know what I do like? I like the cab from California. And if that's what I got to buy because I got to buy American, then I will. I like a free market, but only when it's fair. Anyway, we're going to talk about the markets straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We're trying to talk directly to the American people about our positive vision for the future, but it's based on data. The American people can see that Donald Trump was given an economy that was on the way up. We had come from the pandemic, worked our way through that, stock market, inflation going down, stock market going up. It's completely inverted now. Stock market crumbling, consumer confidence declining. That's the Donald Trump legacy.
That's Representative Pete Aguilar, and I don't know. I don't think he's selling the right story here with the markets. I think he's got it a little twisted, and that's why I want to bring in our resident expert on the crypto markets. He's an early crypto investor. He's the host of Wise Guys on Newsmax TV. John Tabacco, welcome back, brother.
Hello, Ricardo. How are you?
I am good. Happy Friday, my brother. Now, when you hear Pete Aguilar say that, tumbling markets and yada, yada, yada that he just said is the legacy of Donald Trump, do you think is that the popular opinion of people on the left?
No, I just think people on the left will find some way to blame Donald Trump for everything. I mean, the falling markets is no fault of Donald Trump other than exposing what the reality of the situation is now. I mean, the market, Rich, it's got to come down. It's got to clean out. It's got to rinse. It's got to reset. Donald Trump can't be blamed for that. But I think when that does happen, there'll be a strong foundation for the reset, so some of these lefties will be eating crow. But, yeah, I mean, I think they think that's part of their formative nature to just blame Trump for everything, Rich.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, when you talk about rinsing and resetting, what's going through the market and what do we have to get rid of? Well,
look, I spent a long time analyzing markets, investing in markets, and there are periods in America where government intervention, government pumping stimulus into the market, particularly into Treasury bonds and Treasury notes, which our government was doing to keep interest rates stable. And the government also engages from time to time in open market operations where they go in and buy stocks to stabilize the market. And, Rich, the analogy to me is when you're in a hospital and you're getting pumped with all these sedations and medications and recovery and maintenance, when you get out of the hospital, you need 2 or 3 days to clean out, to rinse out your system before you feel better. And it's got to come out of your pores. You got to sweat it out. That's where we are now. They've been putting so much artificial stimulation into the market for the last 4 years. It's like a bloodletting. I think Trump's just got to let it all cleanse out. Let's find the right level. I think 35 or 36,000 on the Dow. And then we'll have a strong foundation to start building off of and implementing some of Trump's policies. And it looks like that took one step further today with Trump's tax cuts and economic plans getting passed by the House and apparently the Senate.
Yeah, I think that's a good step with the passage of the CR and hopefully the framework that's been laid out for no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. And my hope is that we'll take a step in the right direction with that. It was a nail biter, right? People didn't know which way Schumer was going to go. Now Schumer's paying the price. AOC and the rest of them are coming for him. But I think you're onto something with talking about the government pumping capital into the market in order to stabilize interest rates and to stabilize the market, purchasing T-bills and stuff like that. I think we're seeing a lot of this where that's not happening right now. So the markets are hedging, right? You're seeing gold go up. You're seeing a little bit of nervous activity, but it doesn't seem to be the nervous activity that the sky is falling. More so, we're just trying to protect ourselves from this rinse, this clean out, this recuperation. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, the people that are behaving like the sky is falling are those on the left who are responsible for the sky falling. When you're being kind when you're saying, well, they put in artificial stimulation to keep interest rates low, keep the markets up. It wasn't like a duty of the former administration. What it was a sleight of hand.
Scam.
It was a financial trick. What they were doing was, because every other metric was so bad, Rich, they were readjusting the jobs numbers a month later, every month. So they would say, yay, the job numbers are great. And then under the cover of night, 45 days later, they say, you know what, we made a mistake back in June. The numbers actually sucked that month, and they're down. But people don't stay tuned to the revisions. And now we know from all this USAID money, people like Bill Kristol and Politico, they were all getting paid by the Biden administration to sing their tune. So, of course, there's going to be people who are acting like their hair's on fire. Most of them are, protecting their former domain.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Amigos, we're on with John Tabacco, early crypto investor, host of Wise Guys. And John has been at the White House, and he's been covering things for his Newsmax program, and was able to snag an exclusive with the White House crypto czar. We're going to hear about that one-on-one and how you could hear it straight ahead. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with John Tabacco. It's me, Rich Valdez. Don't move a muscle.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
It's an honor to work for you. It's an honor to work for a president who works every day to get so much done on behalf of the American people. Your administration is moving at tech speed. It's really amazing. It's actually faster than any startup that I've been part of. Is that your administration moves even faster. So I just want to say thank you for having me be a part of it. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I love working for you, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, David, very much. Appreciate it.
That's David Sachs, the White House crypto czar, who hosted the White House Crypto Summit last week. As we know, we had John Tabacco on to tell us a little bit about it, and he's back with us because he had a one-on-one with David Sachs, and I want to hear all about it. John, tell us about your one-on-one with the White House crypto czar.
Well, Rich, yeah, I was at the White House last Friday for the Crypto Summit, and, you know, for me, I was kind of an early adopter, somebody that was involved in the early stages of Bitcoin, some pretty big blockchain projects. And for me, it was a kind of vindicating moment to see the government of the United States acknowledging cryptocurrency was something that we needed to be a part of. Have Donald Trump out there saying we're going to be the crypto Bitcoin capital of the world. And David Sachs is a well-known guy in the field. He's, you know, one of the greater investors and kind of thinkers. And, yeah, I was really happy. He took maybe 10, 15 minutes to sit down, talk to me one-on-one, and, you know, really explain about not necessarily all the intricacies of what we're going to do, but why Donald Trump has impaneled this group. And the main thing is that Trump realizes that the kind of libertarian nature of decentralized finance, people having another currency that there's no central government controls, Trump wants to make sure that that's available. U.S. government's been accepting Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for years now for IRS payments, for fines, for penalties, and hundreds of millions have been seized and forfeited to the U.S. government. So Donald Trump's kind of just putting someone in charge of saying, hey, let's get a handle on what we have. All these different agencies have fragmented strategies and plans for how they dispose of Bitcoin. And now Donald Trump's saying, hey, David Sachs, you're my crypto czar. Collect all the Bitcoin that we have in all these different agencies. Those are the assets of the American people. Let's get a good count. Let's get an audit. Let's get them in one place. And then, Rich, you know, one of the things that we haven't been doing for a while is the Treasury Department's going to be responsible for managing the trading and liquidation of these U.S. taxpayer assets. And, you know, for, 6 or 7 years, the U.S. government got Bitcoin or captured them or they were forfeited to them, and they immediately sold it because there was no central agency that was kind of keeping an eye and making sure that they were good stewards of it for the taxpayers. Imagine we would have held on some of this Bitcoin we've had over the last 6 or 7 years. Could be worth, 20, 30 times more. So, Sachs said, hey, look, we have an innovative group here. We want to make sure there's some rules to protect retail investors. But then Donald Trump has charged us with kind of making America the crypto capital of the world, and we want to innovate and be at the forefront of capitalism and technology. So to me, it was a joyous day to hear people in the power of the U.S. government talking about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's very exciting. And something we talked about last time that you pointed out, which I thought was a good point, was this isn't the government saying this is the crypto that we accept, that this is some sort of endorsement of crypto, but more so that in creating the U.S. crypto or U.S. Bitcoin reserve, that this is us putting all of our crypto in one place. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's about the simplest way you could put it. And some of this stuff needs to be put real simple for regular everyday Americans who this is all new to. But yeah,
we're talking about
for
me.
now, right? For now, we're not saying, hey, we're going to go start buying Bitcoin. That's a fallacy to the left. What we're saying is, hey, we already have a whole bunch of this stuff, and nobody's paying attention to it. So let's get it all in one place. Let's get a count up. Let's make sure that we're being, good stewards of the U.S. taxpayers' assets.
Now, John Tabacco, I want to throw a scenario at you because there's a number of people on either side of the aisle, right? I know that there are people in my circle that are constantly telling me, listen, you got to be careful. We don't want a digital dollar. We don't want to have our currency controlled, blah, blah, blah. And on the other side of that coin, proverbially speaking, there are similar people telling me, listen, the dollar's going to go crypto. You got to get in early. You got to make sure you're buying XRP. That's going to be the new ledger, and everybody's going to make it rich. And I think and there's videos of this ad nauseum on both sides. Beware of the digital dollar and hurry up and buy your XRP. So I'm wondering, for people that are listening, and in particular myself, that I hear this and everybody's making good arguments, but it's hard to decipher either way. And the older people are, like I'd say my age and older, they're a lot more skeptical about crypto and a lot more amenable to precious metals or cash or other types of investments that aren't crypto. What do you make of that scenario? What are your thoughts on all of those?
Well, Ricardo, I don't want you to get mad at me because I know you're somewhat of a XRP aficionado. But
no, I'm not. I just want to make some money with it, and I bought some.
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't see. And look, I founded a division of Overstock.com. We launched one of the first ever legal Bitcoin blockchain projects, and I used the Ripple protocol. So, I mean, the Ripple protocol is certainly one of the foundational elements of all blockchain and Bitcoin, Ethereum. So, on the one side, there was some real innovation by that company. On the other side, there has been so much negative publicity. There have been so many things that have been pointed out that was it legal, wasn't it legal? And I just think, look, we do not want a U.S. bank digital dollar. That's the last thing we want. That's Chinese credit score type stuff.
Exactly.
But XRP has proven to be a really good transfer of value, cross-border transactions. I just don't see, with the sordid past, how that's going to be the gold standard for, a centralized currency. So I think there's value in XRP. I think people have as good an opportunity as anything else to make money in if they do their homework, but I don't think it's the save-all, end-all. And I think people are kind of getting caught up in the social media hype on XRP more than the understanding of it.
Now, on that vein, you talked about the gold standard. There's always talk about going back to the gold standard, and I could get economists that are pro-Trump, two pro-Trump economists, and they'll disagree. Right? I could bring in Steve Forbes and says, yeah, sure, we could go back to the gold standard. It'd be as easy as Trump signing an executive order. And I could bring in a former OMB economist from the Trump 1.0 who would say there's not enough gold in the world to go back to the gold standard. And and they'll go back and forth all day. So where do you, being a markets guy, not an economist, what's your view of that?
Well, look, I'd own gold before I'd own XRP, personally.
Yeah, me too.
But look, I'm Rich. I'm anxious to see what kind of reserves or holdings we actually have. The U.S. taxpayers down in Fort Knox. But no, I don't think we'll ever go back to a full gold standard. I don't think we can go back to a full gold standard because the fractional reserve. Well, because we're addicted to the fractional banking model, and the gold standard makes it kind of binary, 1 for 1. So it makes the dollar stronger. But there are certain places in trade and otherwise where a strong dollar hurts us. So I think there's a blend, but I sure would like to know there is some gold backing our U.S. dollars rather than just some magic printing press in the sky that could pop out, trillions of dollars backed by nothing.
Very interesting perspective, John Tabacco. Folks, check out his program. John, let everybody know how they can see your one-on-one with David Sachs this weekend.
So you got to tune into Newsmax TV Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll be there, and we'll have the one-on-one with David Sachs. Me and the crew will be there also talking about breakdown of the left overall and lots of other great fun stuff. Not as great as when Rich is on with us, but we're trying our best.
You're too kind. John Tabacco, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I appreciate it, brother. Keep up the great work. And everybody check out his show and his one-on-one with David Sachs, the White House Crypto Czar, this Saturday. It repeats again on Sunday in case you miss it. So nice they get to do it twice. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Rich.
You bet. Amigos, we come back with your calls, your thoughts, and criticisms, and everything else you've got straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez working the late shift live with you until midnight, 1 a.m. in other parts of the country, depending on the time zone you're in. And I want to get into this pushback that Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats are getting from the far left of their own party. And by that, I mean the squad, AOC, all out crazy herself, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens. Now, all out crazy AOC, she was very, very, very upset, And looks like other people are joining her, right? CNN's Van Jones joining the chorus of people that are blasting Senate Democrats. Check this out.
I've never seen this level of volcanic anger at a Democrat ever.
Ever.
Wow. We can be grumpy. We can be frustrated with each other. There is a volcanic eruption of outrage at Leader Schumer because we want a Mitch McConnell. I remember when Obama had all the cards. Mitch McConnell drove Obama nuts, twisted his pinky, broke his kneecaps, and got stuff done for Republicans when they shouldn't have gotten an inch. They got miles. We have a Senate a majority leader who is beloved in this party, but we want somebody who's going to stand up to this bully. Stand up to this bully. Do something. And if you shut the government down and it gets a little bit crazy, at least some politics is about the rationality. There's an emotional need to stop Donald Trump and Elon Musk from running over this party. And I think Chuck Schumer has radically misread the room.
You know, what's funny is this didn't come down to a single vote of Chuck Schumer, right? It did not. Where was AOC when this was in the House? This flew right through the House. These are all tight votes. I'm not trying to exaggerate that. But I'm saying she wants to blast Schumer. Why didn't she blast Jeffries? No, because Jeffries goes, I held the line. We didn't do it. We just didn't have the votes. I didn't hear her barking like she's barking now. She's yammering up a storm right now because she wants to come after Chuck Schumer to be senator in New York. That's really all it is. She wants to see some blood in the water so she can attack. That's all it is. It's political ambition, my opinion. I could be wrong, but it seems that whenever she has a problem, it's always directed towards Schumer. I never see her saying, "Well, if Leader Jeffries won't blah 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 blah." No, she never has a problem with anybody in the House with her colleagues. It's always that way. Anyway, she continued to unload on Chuck Schumer. Yesterday, she was on CNN saying that it's unthinkable for Senate Democrats to back this bill. Check this out.
This Republican extreme spending bill removes all of the guardrails and all of the accountability measures to ensure that money is being spent in the way that Congress has directed for it to be spent. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk It sacrifices congressional authority, and it is deeply partisan. And so to me, it is almost unthinkable why Senate Democrats would vote to hand the few pieces of leverage that we have away for free when we've been sent here to protect Social Security, protect Medicaid, and protect Medicare.
Slush fund that's deeply partisan. I don't know. Does that sound like the Obama years? Does that sound like the Biden years? It sounds like Washington to me. This is what she's used to, and she's upset that the slush fund doesn't belong to her team. That's it. And quite frankly, the slush fund, they're cutting the slush fund. Right? That's the whole goal here. If Doge is going to cut, and there's no savings to the American people, there's no benefit to our deficit, then what's the deal? Right? Most people are only on board with this because we think it's going in the right direction. If it doesn't go in the right direction, then it's not worth anything. Now, my hope is that this is a sincere effort, and I believe that it is. So my point is the proof will be in the pudding. AOC won't have a leg to stand on, just like everything else when Trump does something. He makes it happen, right? They're not crying about the border anymore because they realize, you know what? People didn't like this border problem. Trump actually fixed the border problem. And here we are, 40 some odd days later, not even halfway through the first 100 days or close to it. And voila, promises made, promises kept. But yet they don't want to give him his full 100-day honeymoon, and they want to blast him about the price of eggs, about this, that, and the other. Why am I getting taxed on overtime? Come on, people. Let's be realistic here. Let's treat Trump with the same respect that we'd had for any other president, right? It was always, give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him a chance. First 100 days. I mean, come on. Unbelievable, the double standards. Anyway, we'll continue with AOC, the media, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, and it's time to go to the phones. I'd love to hear from you all, the American people. The phone number, as you know, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's check in with our buddy in Boise, Idaho. Paul, go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich. It's a complicated topic that you've got going. I love it, though, because it's thought-provoking. You got to think about this. First thing we're not going to do is exactly what the Biden administration just got through doing, which was a communist coup over the whole country of the United States of America. If you pick that apart piece by piece, inch by inch, you come up with an AOC and a Bernie Sanders. Now, those two are peas in the pod, and they're actually going to be making a tour around various locations in the United States of America. Now, I know one thing that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to spend money frivolously on something that I don't really have to have. I'm not going to blow money on something. In other words, I'm not going to flood the zone and create inflation and have inflation take over what we had as far as money is concerned, and then had to go onto our credit cards because we didn't have it.
Right. Well, Paul, thank you for your thought, brother. The music means we got to go. Amigos, we continue with another hour of amazing talk radio, depending on where you are in the country. Some areas, this may be the end of the road for you, depending on your time zone. And if it is, I say to you, take care, good night, and God bless you, America. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
While the media was up in an uproar about the shutdown, it didn't happen. So anyway, hola. Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? It's Rich Valdez. I'm really excited about this shutdown thing. Let me give you the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And again, no shutdown. This is important, I think, because I think many of us saw that there was never going to be a shutdown. This is the Democrats constantly pushing the envelope, testing the water to see how far they can go with things. Can they try and pin this on Trump? Can we shut it down and make people's lives difficult? You know what they've realized, I think? Shutting down the government doesn't ruin people's lives. People think it's ruining their lives when the media is constantly beating them in the head, saying, this is ruining your life. You can't visit national parks. They're going to steal. Have you noticed that they're always stealing Social Security? The Democrats are always screaming that the Republicans are stealing your Social Security, whether it's Elon Musk, George W. Bush, or anybody else. The Democrats are always stealing Social Security, and guess what never happens? Social Security never gets stolen. Now, of course, there's a critic out there saying, oh, but come on, Rich, eventually we're going to run out of money. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these people flipping out all the time, saying that this isn't going to happen, and that isn't going to happen, and the other's not going to happen, and it happens every time. I've never, ever, ever run into somebody and say, oh, you know what? Because of the government shutdown, I get my Social Security check. And you're not going to run into those people either because it's not happening. The swamp is addicted to cash. They're not going to turn off their cash spigot. They need more of it. They want more of it. They love government. They worship at the altar of big government. Many of us, we worship at the altar of our church. We bow to God. And this is the big difference. So many people I know, when they're in a bind, they bend a knee in prayer to find a solution. They don't look to the government. Now, this is not saying if you're in a jam, you don't, and you need you need unemployment, you need SNAP, TANF, any type of welfare. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, from where does one's providence come? And that's the bottom line of it for me. If you don't see the government as your daddy, good. You don't even have to be a believer in Jesus or any other God, for that matter, to reject the idea that the government is your provider. And that's where I'd like, that's where I'd like everybody to be. I don't want people to think that the government is here to provide for them. When people come at me and tell me things like, he doesn't really care about you. You know what I'm saying? I don't care who likes me. I want to make sure you like America. And I think it's high time as Americans, we take a little heed to what President Reagan warned about, being informed patriots. We have to be informed patriots. Why? For the simple reason that there are people that I respect that are grossly uninformed. There are people that I love and care for that are grossly misinformed. There are people out there in this world, people that listen to this program, people that you may see in your day-to-day, who knows? There are plenty of people around us that are trying to make a life for themselves. Their job is not to follow politics. Their job is not to decipher the news. They want to hear what's going on. They want to be informed, so they turn on the news. They listen to this show. They may open up social media. They may look at Twitter. And it's the rest of our jobs that work in this little world, this media world, to try and do the best we can by them, because they're trying to do the best they can by their family, whether it's driving a truck or an ambulance or a police car or a fire truck or a plumbing truck, driving a, I don't think they call them locomotives anymore, right? But these guys that are engineers on trains or conductors. There are so many people out there, so many different types of jobs that are just trying to make it in life. And the last thing they need is to get lied to. But when I hear people tell me, well, there's two constitutions out there. There's one for the corporation of the United States, and there's one for the Republic of the United States. This is a distinction without a difference, right? And this is not me being naive or not knowing. No, this is me explaining to you that you're falling into propaganda. When you hear people talking about maritime law and this, that, and the other thing, you're on the wrong track. Now, that's all I'm just going to tell you for your own benefit. All right? It's kind of like those videos on YouTube. As much as I believe in riding a horse down a dirt road and being unmolested by the local sheriff, I'll be the first one to tell you, if you try and pull out one of those sovereign citizen papers that they have where they just put it up against the glass when they get pulled over, like a photocopy of their driver's license, the cops like, open the window, driver's license, registration, and they just hold up a paper with a photocopy of their driver's license that says, I don't consent to any search or seizure under advice of counsel, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not answering any questions. And it doesn't go well for a lot of people. I mean, in some situations, the cops figure out quickly, all right, this guy's going to give me a hard time. I was just going to tell him he was driving a little fast, and I was going to give him a warning. And some cops might say, well, for that, now I'm going to give you the ticket. Or others might say, you know what? It's not worth my time giving this guy the warning to go through all of these shenanigans. He's probably recording me. It's going to become a show. Have a good day, sir. And they let you go. That doesn't mean this thing works. It doesn't mean it's effective. It means that sometimes you get lucky. It's kind of like a broken clock being right twice a day. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't agree with the idea that we should be unmolested, but I also live in a real world. And I also live in New Jersey, right? So you might try that in some states. Okay, great. It's definitely not going to work here. I can tell you that. Police departments around here would much rather yank you out of your window after bashing it in with their baton before and paying out whatever lawsuits associated with that, violating every one of your constitutional rights before they allow you to win. And I'm pretty sure there's a few cops that are going to be mad at me for saying that. But I'm telling you, that's how it is in a lot of parts of the country. And I know that's exactly why these sovereign citizens guys do what they do. And my point was not really to talk about them. My point was to make the point that we have to be informed citizens. We can't sit here and fall victim to every last utopian conservative idea that we hear. They're not all doable. They're not all feasible. Yes, the politicians work for us. Yes, we have to go out and win elections. And yes, I think we're doing that. And we're seeing it happen slowly but surely, right? Look at Doge. I love it when the politicians who think they're running the show, like Maxine Waters and others, when they show up and they're like, hey, I want to go into the Department of whatever. And they're met with people saying, I'm sorry, you can't come in today. You don't run the show here. You have the power of the purse. You're a legislator. You're a lawmaker. But we represent the executive branch. And there's separation of powers, and you can't just come in here and run roughshod over this. I love that. I think that we're establishing some important boundaries, and Trump is flexing his muscles where he needs to flex them. Good. We need to do all of that. And I think we need to do it with a sober mind and very realistically so that we know what's going on. Because the knee-jerk reaction of every single time, this is what the left does, right? The left, oh, I don't like what they said. Let me silence them. Let me stifle them. Let me shut them up. Let me shadow ban them. Let me do whatever I can to make sure they're not allowed to talk. They try to shut you up. They try to lie about you. Oh, they raped somebody. They did this. They did that. Right? This is what the left does. They make stories up. We don't need to be like the left. Right? I think we need to be armed with the truth and do what's right. And what's right is not trying to come up with a story about military operations that are happening behind the scenes where, there's so many things, I hate to use the word conspiracy theory because it offends so many people. But the reality is there's real life, and then there's stories that people tell to get you excited about hearing something. Right? Performance art is a part of delivering information. And there's a lot of people out there that are really good at it. I crack a joke every now and again. I don't know if I'm good at it or not, but I do it. But one thing I'm not going to do is sit here and try and paint the picture that I believe that Nancy Pelosi is going to be imprisoned, that I believe AOC and the squad are going to be imprisoned, that I believe Zelensky is going to be imprisoned. Now, he actually might be out. He's not an American. They might have other ways of dealing with him there. But far be it from me to sit here and tell you that Joe Biden's going to go to jail. Far be it from me to tell you that half of Congress is going to get locked up because they're all treasonists, and that's not happening. And that's not a slight on Kash Patel or Dan Bongino or anybody else that is seeking justice in our country. In my opinion, that's a testament to their doing their jobs soberly, to doing their jobs with a high degree of couth and integrity. That's what I'm saying. Let's know our stuff. Let's know the law. Let's understand the playing field. And let's make America right. Let's make it awesome. Let's make it great again. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So the environmentalists on the left have their panties in a bunch for sure, because EPA Chief Lee Zeldin announcing today the biggest deregulatory action in U.S. history with the famous words, "The Green New Scam is over." Check this out.
Today, the Green New Scam ends as the EPA does its part to usher in the golden age of American success. Our actions will lower the cost of living by making it more affordable to purchase a car, heat your home, and operate a business. Jobs will be created, especially in the U.S. auto industry, and our nation will become stronger for it. From the campaign trail to day one and beyond, President Trump has delivered on his promise to unleash energy dominance and lower the cost of living. We at EPA will do our part to power the great American comeback.
The great American comeback, the golden age of America is upon us. I love what I'm hearing. I want to know what it looks like and what that means practically. Because, of course, the left is going to say, that's it, we're destroying the planet in the name of the almighty dollar. Republicans are evil. I want to hear from Steve Milloy, former Trump transition member when it comes to the EPA. He knows his stuff. And he's a senior fellow at the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. Steve Milloy, welcome back, brother.
Hey, Rich, thanks for having me.
You bet. So you heard the big announcement from EPA Chief Lee Zeldin. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I mean, Lee Zeldin is going to go down in history as the greatest EPA administrator ever. I mean, this is the first deregulatory day EPA has ever really had. And he announced just, a list of 31 fantastic things that he's going to undertake, the most important one of which, of course, is ending the Green New Scam and the climate hoax. They're going to undo all the Biden EPA regulations are going to go undo a lot of the Obama ones, and this is going to achieve President Trump's campaign promises to make America great again. We need to reindustrialize the country. We need to make energy costs less. To do that, we have to get rid of all the Biden inflation in terms of energy. It was Biden's war on fossil fuels that sent gasoline prices through the roof and caused the inflation that rippled throughout the economy and put us in the mess that we're in now. So it's very exciting. It's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of litigation, a lot of controversy, but they're doing the right thing.
Now let's talk about some of this anticipated litigation. What do you think they're going to be suing over? Do you think it's specifically this announcement that he's making, or every part of it, or some parts of it? Your thoughts?
Yeah. So this announcement that he made is really just an announcement of what he's going to do. They actually, a lot of this stuff is going to take rulemakings, and those rulemakings will be challenged in court. You can see they've already taken some action to curb some of the Green New Scam spending, and by that I'm talking about the Inflation Reduction Act money that literally tens of billions of dollars went out the door in the last few moments of the Biden administration to favored green groups like Stacey Abrams. Her group got with $100 in his bank account, it got $2 billion from EPA. So all that stuff is being ended, but although these people really belong in jail, now they're in federal court saying that, EPA promised us that money, so we should get it. So, they're going to sue at the drop of a hat. Anything that they can get into federal court with, they're going to try to do. So, there's going to be some limitations on lawsuits, but, the agenda that Lee Zeldin announced yesterday is just so massive. The courts are going to be busy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think whenever anything interesting comes about, they right away start suing everybody and everything. Now, Steve Milloy, I want you to tell me a little bit about what in particular, I guess, is the first order of business for someone like Lee Zeldin. Okay, so we're deregulating. That's great. Is that the main focus of his job, is to weaken the EPA so that they don't have the stranglehold that they've had on the American economy? Or is there a more, I don't know, I'm going to use the word environmental aspect to the job?
Well, so I've worked on EPA issues and controversies for 34 years. Now, starting when EPA was formed in 1970, our air wasn't as clean and the water wasn't as clean as it could have been. We rapidly became aware of this, and by the time I started working on these issues in 1990, we had clean air, clean water. Toxic websites were being cleaned up. We were in good shape. For the last 34 years I've worked on EPA issues, it really has been constant overregulation. And by that I mean making companies spend money, sort of technically cleaning up the environment, but not really accomplishing anything for the environment or for public health. So what we're talking about really is just rolling back rules that are costing our economy and not producing any environmental or health benefits. It's just overkill. Now, it's funny, as our environment has gotten cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, and it is the cleanest in the world.
Right.
Environmentalists have been screaming that the environment is more dangerous than ever. It's just completely irrational. They've gotten so crazy that the sort of quote-unquote pollution they're after now is carbon dioxide, which is colorless, odorless, and is plant food.
Yeah, right. The photosynthesis. Well, let's pick up right there when we come back. Folks, we're coming right back with Steve Milloy, former Trump EPA transition team member and senior fellow at the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. Catch him on Twitter at Junk Science, and catch him right here with me straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Love your show, everything you do. So what an honor, really, to join you and your listeners tonight.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Among many other actions, today's momentous day also includes the 2009 endangerment finding, along with all actions that rely on it. I've been told the endangerment finding is considered the holy grail of the climate change religion. For me, the U.S. Constitution and the laws of this nation will be strictly interpreted and followed. No exceptions.
That, again, Lee Zeldin, as part of his big announcement today about the biggest deregulatory action in U.S. history at the EPA. big news, in my opinion. I want to come back to our conversation with Steve Milloy, former Trump EPA transition member and senior fellow at the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. Steve, welcome back. I want to continue to get into this because there's lots of talk about lots of things out there, and you were talking us through how the United States is the cleanest of the environmental polluters out there, being not a polluter like China and like India, but yet we still bear the brunt of it through the EPA regulation.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I seem to be. It's been really frustrating for me as a conservative because conservatives have historically not been interested in the environment. I don't know why that is. And it's always been the third rail of politics for them, kind of like, Medicare and Social Security. They just can't touch it, the entitlement programs. And but Donald Trump is not afraid. Donald Trump knows, for example, climate is a hoax. He and I are in total agreement on that. And he is going to act on his well-founded belief. Most other Republicans are, when you talk to them about climate, they're like deer in headlights, and they can't wait to get away. A lot of them come back with these responses, well, I'm not a scientist. That's lame. Donald Trump can come back at you with facts. I can come back at you with facts. There are a number of conservatives that can, but a lot of Republicans just can't do it, won't do it, don't want to get involved. And so because of that, the left has taken advantage of it. And they have piled regulation upon regulation, and Republicans have let them get away with it because they're afraid to push back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's almost a taboo topic. This is what the left does, right? I feel like this is a tactic of theirs where they try to shame you almost into having a position that's contrary to theirs. Almost like, you're not a Trump supporter, are you? It's kind of
that's right.
that type of thing. You're not a climate denier, are you?
Right.
And this is the route they go.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. The left, they're very clever, except for the 2024 election, but they're generally very clever. I mean, among the first people to be canceled were people like me, the so-called climate deniers. I mean, they likened us to Holocaust deniers 20 years ago and canceled us. There are none of us in universities. There's none of us in the government. The Obama administration came out. If you didn't believe in, the climate hoax, they kicked you out of the government, or took away your work, or whatever. But so we were the first ones canceled before cancel culture became a thing, and that just intimidated everybody. I mean, there have been a few heroes: Donald Trump, Senator Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma. But few and far between. But now Trump has come in, and he's got such a MAGA mandate. He's got Lee Zeldin in there. Lee Zeldin is fantastic. Lee Zeldin doesn't really have any experience at EPA, but he is there to implement the president's agenda, and he is going to do a great job.
Part of that agenda is being blasted by the left, especially the left within the media. You've got MSNBC with a headline about Citibank saying the FBI has recommended that it freeze the accounts of climate grant recipients.
Yeah.
And going further into it, saying that this is another step in Trump's anti-climate crusade.
Yeah.
And the whole thing I find is just interesting because if anybody's holding on to a grant or receiving a grant, and we were just talking about this, right, about all the money that people are receiving that they likely shouldn't be receiving. What do you think of this?
Yeah, no, I'm glad the FBI is looking into this. Look, in August 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act included $369 billion for climate stuff. It could not possibly change the weather. You could spend all the money. It couldn't possibly change the weather, but they were going to spend it anyway. A lot of that money was spent last year in 5 battleground states, $64 billion in 5 battleground states, not to improve the climate, but
maybe they're talking about the political climate.
Yeah, to help Kamala Harris win, and she failed. So she didn't lose with spending $1 billion. She lost spending $65 billion. Now, so Trump has come in. He wants to end this spending. And he made tremendous progress. He's already clawed back the $20 billion that the Biden administration's stowed away at Citibank, intended for 8 different green groups, none of whom existed before any of this happened. They were just, pop-up groups to get this money. But they were going to use it as I've got a video of the EPA administrator during the Biden administration saying that this is walking around money for us. Walking around money, of course, is political slang for money for buying votes.
Right. Yeah, get out the vote money.
Yeah. So President Trump wants to, end he wants to claw back the money that's been spent. He wants to end the Green New Scam. He's going to have a problem because, Democrats are corrupt, but they're not stupid. They spent a lot of money buying red state politicians with Inflation Reduction Act money. That's a lot of what that battleground state money was, and there's been other money. So now, last week, 21 House Republicans wrote to Speaker Johnson saying, we don't want to get rid of the Inflation Reduction Act because we're getting the money. Even though none of these guys voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, Republicans all voted against the Inflation Reduction Act, but now they're
happy to take some of that cash.
Yeah. So, one of the things that President Trump is going to do, he's going to have Administrator Zeldin roll back this thing called the endangerment finding, which is the factual basis for the climate scam. And with that gone, I think President Trump can unilaterally end the Green New Scam spending because there will be no more intellectual, scientific, factual basis for it.
Well, that's outstanding news. Folks, I want to remind you that we're on with Steve Milloy. He's a former member of President Trump's EPA transition team and senior fellow at the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. Catch him on Twitter at Junk Science. And Steve, I want you to let everybody know where to go, to find, the different things that you're doing, whether it's op-eds or legal stuff. Where's the best place to find you?
I do most of my work nowadays on X. My handle is at Junk Science.
Outstanding. Steve Milloy, always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate it, kind of illuminating what's going on in the green world. And I'll be talking to you again real soon, brother.
All right, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you. And amigos, your thoughts, calls, reactions, all of that's coming up after this. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, it's open phones across America at 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Looking forward to speaking with each and every one of you. Let us go to Dan calling us from Nashua, New Hampshire, streaming the program. Go right ahead.
Yeah, you got to look at, Lisa Cardi, who was appointed by corrupt Joe Biden, UN ambassador, okay, who was William Burns' husband, worked for the Bill and Gates, Bill and
All right,
Melinda
you got to get
Gates.
to the point. You're throwing around too many names.
Well, she worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Global Health Program. And Bill Gates' vaccine organization, Gavi, was awarded $4.9 billion from USAID. So this is part of that waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And the other thing is, Kash Patel is killing it. I mean, he arrested 3 people last weekend, and he had Arlanda Brantley arrested, a Connecticut state official.
I haven't heard of any of these people, Dan, but I appreciate it. try to be a little bit more on topic here. I don't know who Artlanda is. I never heard of this Lisa Cardi. We're going to have to sit here and fact check every last point that you're making. I appreciate the call, but it's not really contributing to the conversation per se. Thank you so much. Dan in Nashua, New Hampshire, streaming the show. Let us continue. Let us go now to Bob, Chattanooga, Tennessee, streaming us as well. RichValdez.com. Go right ahead.
Hey, Mr. Rich, love your program. First time I've ever heard you up there
Thank
in
you.
New Jersey. My hat's off to you. And
Thank
you
you.
speak so well. I'm happy to listen to you. Talking about Trump's strategy about the shutdown, publicly I think that he was saying he did not want a shutdown, but secretly I think he was all for a shutdown because it would have been self-eliminating. During a government shutdown, they only lay off non-essential employees, and they would be self-targeted by that shutdown. So it would have been an easy way to eliminate a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm glad Schumer saw the writing on the wall. I'm not glad. I mean, I wish he would have taken the bait, honestly, because that's exactly what happened. We would have let it go on, and he would have said, how much has your life changed without all these people? They're not really essential. So let's add them to the Doge list and get rid of them too. And this has always been my belief. So it's a good thing they don't have me there, that I'm on the radio and not working in Doge. I would be ruthless because I worked in government, and I can tell you my goal there was to work myself out of a job. I think all of our government, local, municipal, state, federal, all of it, I think is bloated. There's way too much of an emphasis on government and, in my opinion, way too, not enough need. And people argue with me on this, telling me, no, because we have this and we have that and we have all these different problems. But ultimately, I believe that we can figure out so many of our own problems. And if you're going to yell at me the day all hell breaks loose, I got news for you. All hell doesn't break loose that often, right? So whenever something goes down, whenever there's an issue like a wildfire, quote unquote, in Hawaii, and they sound the alarm or this and that, and they didn't pay attention, there's always going to be an issue somewhere, and somebody's always going to get in trouble. So the less we have, the better. The less government is involved, the better off you're going to be. People ultimately are the best at figuring out their problems. Bob in Chattanooga, Tennessee, thank you so much for your kind words. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll listen again, and I hope you'll call in again as well. Shout out to you. And we continue. More calls. Let's see. Where do we go from here? I want to go to Steve, calling us from Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Steve, go right ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, Rich.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So when you two were talking a little while ago, not the caller, but the guest you had,
Steve Milloy.
Steve Milloy. I think that he's missing the easy way to explain what's going on. So when Stacey Abrams got $20 billion, it goes to an end. So first of all, there's going to be a board of executives, right? A board, and they all get paid really well. That's the grift right there. Then she passes it on down to another NGO to actually do the work, right? And this is the trail that they can't quite. It's hard to track. So it goes to another NGO, which has a great big old board of directors, executives. They all get paid really well. And then it just on down the line. NGO to another NGO to subcontract another NGO to subcontract another NGO. It's the nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, friends, family, and they're all getting paid very well, just robbing us.
You know what, Steve? I just want to say, I think you're right. And I don't know about the Stacey Abrams stuff personally, but I can tell you personally, I took a job working with Governor Chris Christie, and full-time job working in Trenton, New Jersey, in the Capitol complex on State Street. And first week on the job, I remember they're telling me about these grants, that we administer grants. There's grant money and the grant recipients, and we provide some support to these people that are grant recipients since we're the granting agency, et cetera, et cetera. And talking about all this programmatic stuff. And in the midst of all that, one of the workers that's there, she's kind of not training me, but bringing me up to speed on things. She'd been there for a long time. She tells me, the grant, I don't know how competitive it was, the RFP process, but it went to the former the current CEO of this company is a former head of this department. And I was like, really? Isn't that like a conflict of interest? And she looks at me with, eyes wide open, kind of like saying, yeah, it is. But she says, well, technically it's not, because they don't work here anymore. And if you don't work here anymore, and she said, but it's interesting. These grants only go to people that used to work here. And I'm thinking, how can that be legit? And of course, it's not legit. The argument they make is, these people are the only people equipped to pass the request for proposals. When they put out a public request for proposals, the proposals they get that work best, that make the most sense for them, are the ones from people who worked in that agency and know exactly how these funds need to be spent. It's a catch-22. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to make a request for proposals for guys that want to do late night shows, from 9 to midnight Eastern time with a national audience. Well, there aren't a whole bunch of us. So those of us that are in the know, that do this every day and know how to do it, we're going to know how to answer it. Now, they argue, well, that's how we hire the experts. But if there are only 5 people that know how to do this, and they're all former employees of yours, then it's clear you're creating parameters so that this will only go to these people. Because you didn't need those people in particular, right? The funds were to serve a community. And that's who we need to be looking out for. And I found this to be very interesting. And, trying to always look at both sides of the story, but you're 100% right. It goes to this one, and then they say, all right, well, we've contracted with X, Y, and Z to provide us with technical assistance or technical support doing this. Community outreach, we've contracted with this person, and they do these contracts. So the top NGO might have all the paid executives. The bottom NGO will have all the free community board members, where they put their time and sweat into it, and they don't get a penny. But they're just looking to be involved because they're actually community activists. And this is how they continue to promote this as, it's a real community effort. These people are serving for free. Yeah, that's because they think there's no money behind it, because all the money got taken from the NGO at the top. It really is the way you described it. It's right. And they do it all over the place, not just part of the Green News scam, but as well as with the other funds like USAID. So really good point, Steve. Thank you for your call. Shout out to WGKA Georgia. Coming right back. The rest of your calls, don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Open phones across America, and we're going to be getting to calls in Florida and St. Augustine, Daytona Beach, as well as our buddy the Gila from Manila streaming from the Philippines. But first, we go to Greg in Lorton, Virginia, very quickly. MAL, go right ahead.
Hello, thank you so much for taking my call. I love your show. I am what I call a China hawk. And the reason I say that is I believe that the COVID virus was intentionally perpetrated by China. I also believe the fentanyl crisis in our country is perpetrated by China. And I also believe possibly, now I'm getting a little out there, but I believe that possibly the avian flu with the birds is possibly perpetrated by China.
Listen, you might be onto something. I can't prove it one way or the other, but I believe they're a threat to America. They need to be stopped, and they need to be tariffed from here to kingdom come. Greg and Lorton, thank you. Shout out to WMAL. We're coming to the rest of your calls and more in the next hour. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday night. We're live, we're national. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. We'll be getting to your calls momentarily. Open phones across America is in full effect, and I want to talk about a couple of things, namely, the speech that President Trump gave today at the Department of Justice. Man, did he nail that. Then, of course, there is no shutdown. It's 11:07 p.m., just turned 11:08 on my clock. Still no shutdown here. I think I told you that yesterday. I think I told you that the day before, because it made no sense for them. There was a million different reasons, or at least two or three big ones, why this was not going to happen. Democrats, this isn't going to go well for Democrats. This was only going to hurt them. And I think they needed to see that, and they were trying to assess whether it would work or not. And now they're going after Chuck Schumer. And Trump, again, taking the high road, praising Chuck Schumer. Take two. Anyway, I got a clip of him praising Chuck Schumer. But first, I want to play a different clip from President Trump and that speech where he discusses what happened under Biden being so sad. Listen to this.
What happened to our country was so sad. What they've done in 4 years to our country with the borders, with Afghanistan, the most embarrassing period of time, allowing the Russian situation, was never going to happen with Ukraine. Allowing October 7th to happen would have never happened, because under me, Iran was totally broke. They had no money. They weren't giving any money to Hamas or Hezbollah. It was totally broke. But allowing inflation, look at what inflation's done to people, been so devastating. And now you see that, by the way, price of eggs is down 35% in the last week and a half. We're doing a good job. Brooke is doing a good job. Brooke Rollins and everybody. And inflation's down, interest rates are down, gasoline has come down to a level that we haven't seen in a long time. All things that we wanted to do, because then everything else is going to be coming down. We want it to come down. We want bacon to come down. And
of course we want bacon to come down. We all want bacon to come down. We want eggs to come down. We want bacon to come down. We want to make eggs and bacon healthy again, right? And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. And I've been eating eggs, and I have not stopped eating. I stopped buying them in the supermarket. I just buy them outside. And I felt like there wasn't much of a price increase on prepared eggs wherever I bought them. But far be it from me to, talk about the cost of cooking. I don't cook ever. So anyway, kudos to El Trompito and the egg prices. And really, I think the speech overall, very good speech. I think today, walking into Foggy Bottom over there, Department of Justice, giving that speech, walking down that long corridor with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, good move, letting people know, hey, this is where we are, this is where we stand, the fun and games are over, we're not allowing this stuff to happen anymore. He mentioned how he took joy in firing James Comey because he felt it was the right thing to do. He talked about how they spied on him. He talked about the media and how they've attacked him, and a lot of other topics. It was really a wide-ranging speech. Maybe I'll bring you some clips of that a little bit later. But I also just wanted to throw this out there as well. The clip of Donna Lieberman. She is an attorney for the accused Hamas supporter that has now been taken into custody at the recommendation of the United States Department of State. And they're working to, change his legal status so they can deport him. And his attorney, she was on CNN today, and she's got a lot of things to say. She had a conversation with Sarah Sittner about a lot of things, ranging from he's being charged with having ideas to, again, making the argument that I think that is erroneous, saying that this is about First Amendment and that they kidnapped the guy. Now, I want you to hear this quote-unquote kidnapping before we get to the attorney. Listen to this.
What? You're going to be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay, let's not. Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone. Okay, he's not. I understand. He's not resisting.
There's no news for this. Don't worry about it. You're going to have to come with us. Don't worry about it.
I don't know if that's his wife or some other sympathetic female there that's freaking out at the sight of him being handcuffed. But I guess it was nice of them to let him leave his phone. If you're being arrested for being a material supporter of a terrorist group, I'm taking the phone. I want to know who you're talking to and what you're doing with it. So I thought that was very kind of them to allow her to take his phone. But that's what the government is alleging. And, of course, they have the burden of proof to say, hey, we've got to make this clear and known and what not. You know, he's going to have his process that he's going to go through. And his attorney alleges that he's not getting any type of due process, which doesn't sound like he was kidnapped to me. But listen to this. 17.
I remember back in the day, because I am seasoned, as we call it in my community, when the ACLU actually stood up for the rights of the KKK to speak their piece in public and to take part in protests or marches. In this instance, is the First Amendment the main crux of this? Is this all about the First Amendment, according to the way you all see it?
Absolutely. This is all about the First Amendment, and it's all about due process. You know, they kidnapped this man, this young student, father to be in any minute
This
now.
young student, father to be, I get. Young student, as I understand it, he's not even a student anymore. And he's also 30 years old. I don't know what kind of student he is. Maybe he's working on a doctoral type of thing. But he's 30, right? Most people are not students at 30. I know there's many adult students out there. But as I understand it, he's not a student. He's an activist on the college campus, but he's not a student, right? So to try and portray this guy who's 30 years old as a student, I think is inaccurate, unless he actually is a student at 30 years old. But it seems to me that his intention here and his purpose, if what the government is alleging is accurate, is to be a rabble-rouser at best and a terrorist sympathizer at worst. And I think we need to investigate it for the sake of the public good and for the sake of his due process. And I believe that's what's happening right now, right? They're trying to figure this thing out. Does he get a chance to stay? I don't know. If they have enough proof to prove that he's done what they're alleging he did, then he's got to go. But the idea here that this is about stifling his speech or chilling free speech or doing this because they don't like what he said is farcical. And if it is, then I'll be the first one to be in his corner, right? Because I talk a lot of smack every day on the radio. And Biden never came knocking on my door to put me in jail, nor has Trump. As far as I know, we don't do that in this country. Now, I know that it happened to parents at school board meetings, but I haven't seen it happen since January 20th. Go ahead.
Based on an accusation that he has the wrong political ideas, and he has expressed them. And this isn't just about him. This is a shot across the bow. This is a message to every university in the country.
Now, hold on a second, Donna Lieberman. I just want to say this is a shot across the bow at discouraging terrorist sympathizers. This man did not organize a sit-in. These were people that were taking over buildings and holding people hostage in some cases, right? Harming others, breaking windows. This was a violent event. In many of these campus protests, this was not some sort of peaceful sit-in type of thing, right? So to say that this is about political ideas and expressing them, no. He's been arrested for material support of a terrorist organization and whatever else that entails, whatever type of support that was. It's a national security thing. This is not, we don't like what he said. We barely heard what he said. I mean, what did he say that so many others haven't said? They haven't been arrested. So let's really, call it what it is. There's more to this than has been revealed about what he's actually done. And you're trying to paint the picture that he's some sort of campus activist that's being harassed by the FBI. Go right ahead.
This is a message to every member of the faculty in any university, to all the students. It's an attempt to bully the universities into submission. It's an attempt to bully and intimidate students from speaking out, faculty from speaking out, and it's an attempt to bully the rest of us into being quiet and going with the administration's program. Last I heard, we were a democracy. This attempt to quell free speech is absolutely terrifying. If they can disappear somebody for doing nothing but having ideas that the government disapproves of, it should be terrifying to everybody.
Listen, lady, Donna Lieberman, counselor, I can tell you this. Nobody here has been disappeared. Nobody's being kidnapped. The reality is, if this guy were organizing peaceful protests, real peaceful ones, things where they hang up signs and they chant things like every other protest, nobody would be looking at this guy. They're looking at him because the protests that he was organizing, where they were taking certain wings, certain buildings, part of the campus over, not letting people in or out. One of them was a Dominican guy at Columbia University, Morningside Heights campus. And he was on TV and he said, I was scared to death for my life. They wouldn't let me leave. These guys were militant. And this guy was a janitor there. He's seen these types of things before. He was scared for his life. And he said so. He said, if I had a gun, I believe that's the quote that he gave, that if he had a gun in that moment, he would have used it. Does that sound like a peaceful protest to you, where the janitors are being sequestered and held hostage? I don't think so. So, again, to make it seem like this is the government coming after some innocent, squeaky, clean choir boy that's just organizing a sit-in, that couldn't be further from the truth. Anyway, I got to pause right here. I want to get to your calls right away. Let me see. I think we can get to one right before we take this break. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Lester, Daytona Beach, Florida, WGUF. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi. I'm calling in regards to Team Trump running into roadblocks set up by federal judges that were appointed by Biden in his last days as president. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering why these judges were accepted so readily by the Senate. Why didn't the Senate they could have blocked these appointments by Biden. And I'm wondering, why didn't the Senate come up and do what they could have done to help Trump?
Right. Well, it wasn't the same Senate. Right. Trump didn't win control of the Senate, or the Republicans didn't gain control of the Senate until Trump's election. So you're saying the Senate that was in cahoots with Biden, why didn't they do more? And I'm guessing it's because that's what they do. Right. They typically do that. And Mitch McConnell, being the minority leader at the time, prior to, right, during the Biden days, Mitch McConnell is no friend of Trump. He's no friend of really Republicans, in my opinion. He's bad news. He's always been very, very bad news. And this is one of the reasons why. Whenever he could have stood up, whenever he could have done something, he didn't. He gets credit from a lot of people who are afraid of him when they say, well, he did a great job with judges. And, I don't really care, honestly. I expect him to do a great job with judges. I expect him to step up and do the right thing for the party that he is an officer in, right? The minority leader, or at some point he was majority leader during the first Trump 1.0, and he wasn't great there either. So my point is, when you have these politicians that are in it for themselves and they're not really looking for anything, you have no friends. You've got Democrats in control and you've got Republicans in the minority that don't like Trump. So they do lots of horse trading, and they're happy to put rhinos and others in positions of power because that's what they do. And quite frankly, it's, to be very honest, oftentimes presidents typically get what they want, typically. But for Merrick Garland, right? There's one where Mitch McConnell stepped up, and the jury's out on that even. I'm glad we didn't get Merrick Garland, but I don't know that we needed to do what we did at that time, right? I don't know. I wouldn't like it if they did it to us, but I understand the circumstances, so I'll leave it up for debate. Lester, Daytona Beach, Florida, WGUF, thank you for your call. I hope you'll call in again. Shout out to everybody in WGUF country. Folks, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Ever since I've taken this position, the only thing I care about is doing right by the warfighters, by the troops. In short, we want the biggest, most badass military on the planet, on God's green earth.
That is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and he's now trying to merge, right, forces with the Department of Government Efficiency and the Department of Defense. And I say that figuratively, of course, because they want to trim the military budget. First, he ordered the military to reallocate 8% of its budget away from low-priority items like climate change, that better align with President Trump's America First policies. And the rest of the budget shift would result in a 40% adjustment toward funding Trump's priorities at the Department of Defense over a 5-year period. So I want to talk about cutting the military budget and what that looks like with someone who knows a little bit about the military. I should say a little bit more than me is what I'm saying, a lot more than me. And that is our guest. Colonel William Dunn is retired from the United States Marine Corps, and he's the president of Strategic Resilience Group. He's the author of a book called Gunfighters Rule, and he's our guest. We're going to introduce him now, and then we're going to come right back and talk about this. Colonel, welcome back.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, and how you all doing tonight?
Thank God, doing well. Now, I want to get into this conversation, but I'll preface it with saying that I'd spoken with Secretary Hegseth's not immediate predecessor, but another one of his predecessors, Secretary Christopher Miller, probably about a year or two ago. And he indicated to me something very similar. We need to drastically cut our military budget. And I thought to myself, that sounds like a dangerous proposal because we need a strong national defense, and cutting the military budget would only weaken us. But he spent a good half hour with me or so explaining why that wouldn't be the case and why there's so much bloat in federal government, and how we keep buying bombs when we keep using drones, and not the type of bombs that we can put on the drones. And there seemed to be a mismatch in the arsenal that we were amassing and our delivery system for said arsenal. So I want to take our time and get into that with you straight ahead, but we're up against a break, so I don't want to jump into it just yet. But I want to remind the audience, our guest, Colonel William Dunn, is retired from the United States Marine Corps. He's president of Strategic Resilience Group and the author of Gunfighters Rule. And you can find more information about Colonel Dunn and his work at the Strategic Resilience Group at srgadaptive.com. Make sure you check that out and keep it locked right here. We're coming right back to have that conversation with Colonel William Dunn and me, Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
You know, other countries want to have a strong United States. They want to have a strong America. And I think it's going to make us very, very strong, much stronger. And we have a lot of work we're doing on the military. Our military already, I've authorized some contracts to be built that are very substantial. We're building the greatest equipment in the world. We have the greatest military equipment in the world. We're building it. At some point, when things settle down, I'm going to meet with China, and I'm going to meet with Russia in particular, those two, and I'm going to say there's no reason for us to be spending almost $1 trillion on military. There's no reason for you to be spending $400 billion. China's going to be at 400 billion. We're at $1 trillion. We're going to be at close to $1 trillion. And I'm going to say we can settle this on, we can spend this on other things. We don't have to spend this on military.
So that's President Trump talking about cutting military spending. And of course, this debate continues. And that's why I want to speak with decorated Marine Corps veteran and former combat attack helicopter pilot, Colonel William Dunn. He brings perspective both as a military strategist and a defense spending expert. Colonel Dunn, welcome back. What are your thoughts on this notion that we should be cutting the military budget?
Well, the notion would be a wonderful thought if we had peace throughout the world. I just saw on Fox News a little bit ago, it looks like they did pass some sort of budget with an increase in defense spending of about $6 billion for between now and September. So in order to ultimately save money over time, you have to have a very strong military. It's got to be strong, deterrence through strength, peace through strength. What we need to do is evaluate where the money in all elements of the government is going, to include defense. And then if we find areas where the money can be spent, in a much better application, getting rid of the Green New Scam, as the president calls it, DEI funding in the military, find out where that money's going, pull that out, and then put that money towards something. Is that something going to be weapons? Is it going to be taking care of our military men and women? Someone had a discussion with me today about the veteran suicides. Can we use that money that we spend on DEI to support some sort of support for our military men and women, so that when they get out of the military, they go on and live great and active lives? I'm not afraid of cutting defense spending when the time is right. But the number one priority before we take out one dime out of defense spending is we must maintain the highest standards of military readiness, because you never know what we call in the military when the balloon goes up. When the balloon goes up, you're going into harm's way, and we have people in harm's way right now. Apparently, another thing that just popped up on the news, we just took out a terrorist in Iraq. So there's men and women, doing the fight, taking the fight to the enemy as we're sitting safe, on the east coast of the U.S. We've got people overseas that are, hunting terrorists. So we have to stay strong. I'm very supportive of analyzing where the money's going. Our company did that for the VA a couple years back, a thing called category management, where you analyze where an enterprise is spending money. And our small company saved the VA about $2.4 billion in 3 years. Imagine what we can do on a global scale with Doge, and take some companies, go in and look where the defense spending's going that have, that are not selling to the government, if you will, selling weapons. Have them analyze it, find ways to become more efficient. Maybe we don't cut the spending, maybe we do, but what we do is we apply every dollar to readiness, so that we're always at the tip of the spear, ready to fight.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement there. I think that has to always remain. I don't think we should even have a military if we're not focused on having a military that's ready to do what military should do, and to take on other militaries that may, come a-knocking. So I think that's 100% right. And honestly, up until that conversation I had with former Secretary Miller, I never, ever thought I would say something like we should spend less money on defense, because I didn't believe we should. I felt like we should always be cutting edge. President Trump, in the clip we just played, he said, China's spending $400 billion. We're spending over $1 trillion. I'm thinking that's how it needs to be. We should always be outspending China at least 2 to 1 on that stuff. But not throwing good money after bad. And that's what you're saying, right? Making sure that we're not, there was an example somewhere, I don't know if it was Secretary Hegseth or someone else, that said that they were hammers that were costing $60 each. Now, I don't know if the hammers really cost $60, but if there's a cheaper way to get those hammers, was it just bloat or waste, fraud, abuse, that type of thing, where people are spending on military contracts and spending at a higher rate than they ought to? So I think that's where the focus should be, and it's my understanding of that's where it's going. I don't think that we should ever really scale back in our readiness or warfighting capability. Do you?
No. What we need to do is put as the prime directive, which we have, is to maintain the strongest, most ready military in the world. As long as we can maintain that, and I like your comment about 2-to-1, right? I'm happy to spend 2-to-1 more. Now, there's also nothing wrong with the president saying to the other countries, hey, drop your spending, we'll drop ours, and maybe we don't drop it at the rate they drop theirs, and that becomes an additional benefit to us. But certainly, if you knew you were never going to get in a car wreck, you would not have to spend money on insurance. If you knew for a fact, right? Right? We'd all love to take that insurance money that we pay on our house, we pay on our cars, and put it to something, put it to investment, college for the kids or whatever. Imagine if we lived in a world, which we do not, where people in countries were not always trying to make themselves more competitive than the other. If we didn't have that problem, and sure, we wouldn't have to spend so much on defense, but the reality is we do. There are so many countries out there, some, more than others, want to see the demise of the U.S., the demise of Israel, and they'd like nothing more than to take over all of our country. And so it seems like it'll never happen. However, I've lived through so many years of war, as we all have, whether you were in uniform or not. You've seen since 1983 is when I came in the Marine Corps, we've been at some sort of conflict pretty much nonstop since 1983. The first thing I saw was the Beirut bombing. I wasn't there. I had just joined the Marine Corps.
Wow.
But when the Beirut bombing happened in 1983, guess where that was? Beirut, Lebanon. Mm-hmm. We're still fighting over there. We still have people in harm's way in the Middle East. It's never ended. So we have to stay strong. Not just strong, we have to stay the strongest. And that's the only way that we can keep our competitive advantage militarily.
Yeah, I'm with that. And honestly, I think the impression that I got from the conversation I had with Secretary Miller was that we should be able to maintain that dominance and continue to lead and still spend less money with better weapons if we did it right. And I think he was getting to just, the military contractors, kind of doing what they want to do. I think he also made a reference to if you want to buy a plane, you got to go to Boeing. If you don't go to Boeing, go to Airbus or Bombardier. Yeah. But ultimately, the market's cornered. He said, if you have other options, it becomes more competitive and things become cheaper. And I think that's the angle they're going in. But I'm 100% with you. We can't, in the name of cutting, cut back on our readiness, come back on our ability to win and fight and be the global leader. I think that's what sets America apart, and we should never ever experiment with trying to see what number 2 looks like.
No, and the other thing that we always have to remember, our enemy is smart. We're not dealing with countries that are that dramatically behind us. And
right.
All it takes is a revolution that another country finds that we may not have found yet, because maybe we slow down our research and development, maybe we slow down our massive industrial push for military supremacy. If we slow that down, we could very easily be caught with a 7th-generation fighter that China develops. A 7th-generation weapon that just skips over a couple generations. Now we're at a huge disadvantage. The cost to catch up is astronomical. And so you have to keep this level. You have to think of it as I'm doing research and development. I'm developing. I'm not resting on my laurels, because we don't know what the next thing is.
Right.
Nobody understood. I'm very confident in the world the dramatic impact of drones, these little tiny drones all the way up to big drones, was going to have in the Russia-Ukraine war. I think that caught everybody by surprise. The military right now, in my opinion, we need substantial improvements in counter-drone, counter-UAS capabilities as anyone can buy them. I can go to the store right now, buy a drone that I can fly with my computer, put a 1-pound bomb on it, and fly it and do damage. And anybody can do that. So we've got to find a way when a country focuses on that technology, we've got to counter it. And so all the way up to the space, these giant weapons that can be operated at long distances, we have got to stay at the forefront of all that. And the way to do that, unfortunately, is to spend.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I'm hoping that we can spend less while still achieving the goal. And I want to thank you for being with us. I got to wrap it up here. Decorated Marine Corps veteran and former combat attack helicopter pilot, Colonel William Dunn. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, and I appreciate it, sir.
Well, Rich, thanks so much for having me, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And to all the listeners out there, have a great night. Semper Fi.
Same to you, brother. God bless, and we'll definitely speak again soon. Amigos, that's Colonel William Dunn, and I'm Rich Valdez, coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Open phones across America. Your reactions to everything we're talking about tonight, whether that's precious metals and what's going on in the stock market, the crypto market, and everything else like that, or what the crazy people in Congress are saying, or anything else. I'm looking forward to it. 833-4VALDEZ. I see Walter in St. Augustine is on the line. We're coming to you straight ahead. But first, he's been on hold a little bit longer. It's the Gilla from Manila, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Go ahead, Gil.
Yes, Rich. I know this topic is probably not very interesting to most of your listeners, but I'm sure you're aware of what happened to the former president of the Philippines.
Well, let me just, for the audience's sake, I want to say that there's been headlines all week, and I shared a couple on Twitter, that President Duterte, the former president of the Philippines, was arrested on crimes against humanity for actions he took against drug dealers. Is that right?
That's correct. And let me say, I've lived here a long time. I know the former president. I consider myself a friend of his son-in-law, and so maybe I'm prejudiced. But war against drug traffickers, I would say 90% of the people here in the country supported it. We have very little crime here. We don't have hundreds of thousands of people overdosing and dying. But there's an interesting facet to this story. The present First Lady of the Philippines, Mrs. Marcos Jr., from what we understand, now is...
This is the son of Imelda Marcos?
This would be the daughter-in-law of Imelda Marcos.
Daughter-in-law, okay.
The present, the daughter-in-law of Imelda. And from what we understand, she is in custody in Los Angeles, that she was attended at some kind of a drug party where someone overdosed and died, and nobody called the authorities for 7 hours. And that apparently is a crime. She's there, of course, on a tourist visa. And Nobody knows how this is going to play out because we can't find out anything. There is a complete blackout concerning her on the internet.
Wow. Well, maybe that's something we could find out with our people here stateside as you're kind of breaking this news here about this. I'm hoping somebody will call in, and I got a couple of entertainment reporters that might be interested in that. But I see what you're saying. So you're saying, let me preface my statements by saying this. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, I think is largely a farce. And the United States does not participate in the ICC. It's kind of like the UN's criminal court to prosecute whomever they feel like it, as if they had world governance. Now, that being said, I'm sure that they've gotten it right a couple of times because, like we always say, even a broken clock is right twice a day. But it sounds like you've got competing political factions in the Philippines that are kind of going after each other, and that's where these allegations come from.
Well, that's the motivation of turning him over to the ICC. But understand something. President Duterte is 80 years old, 1 month shy, so he'll be 80 this month, the end of March. This process is going to take 2 years. What are you going to do to an 80-year-old man in poor health? You're going to throw him in prison? How can you punish him?
Yeah, Gil, it's so funny that you say that because this is an argument I get into all the time with my QAnon friends that are hell-bent on seeing Biden thrown in jail and everyone. And not that I'm trying to keep them out of jail, but I keep saying, there's so much immunity. Trump just won this presidential immunity case that, and rightfully so. But that also extends to previous presidents that were acting on behalf of the United States, and whatever they've done, whether it was good or bad, oftentimes they're protected by this type of thing. So it becomes very, very difficult to prosecute a president once they're out of office, and it's impossible to prosecute them while they're in office, at least in the United States. And we've already seen when you weaponize the justice system against your political opponents, how detrimental that can be. And it looks like that's exactly what's happening in the Philippines, and it's a sad thing to see. Gil, the Gilla from Manila, I got to pause right here, but thanks for the update, and we'll keep this going. I'm going to try and find out more about it this week, so stay tuned. I appreciate it, brother. Folks, we're coming right back. The rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez, and we're wrapping this thing up with Walter, St. Augustine, Florida. Go right ahead, WFOY. Quickly.
Quick old story, Rich, about silver. Let's say your abuelo, God rest his soul, if he took his paycheck any time before 1964 in quarters, which at that time was 90% silver, each roll would have cost him $10. Today, that same $10 roll, $240 in silver melt. As John Tabacco would say, yeah.
You're 100% right, brother. Precious metals remain a good investment, whether it's silver or gold. And I'm a fan of gold just because it's a lot. It goes up quicker than silver does, but silver is a safe bet and very versatile and very useful. Walter, thanks for holding on. Thanks for your very, very valuable contribution to the show. Tony in Montreal, shout out to you. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.